At the foothills of the Himalayas, in the tiny mountain kingdom of Nepal, a tragedy the size of Everest has confounded the gods. Despite a profound faith in the power of the deities, evil has found its way into this land. One night of mayhem in Nepal's royal palace has shattered ancient beliefs and left a people reeling and confused. Now, members of the royal household speak for the first time to reveal what really happened the night a crown prince murdered his father, the king, and all but wiped out a dynasty.
After he made sure the king was dead by pushing his body with his feet, and then he turned round and shot, well, everybody in sight, it seemed to me.
He says, brother, nai dai, which in Nepali he said, nai dai. No brother, no brother.
With a revered king dead, a new king has been crowned. But there's a crisis of faith in the monarchy.
This is a period that's probably about as excruciating as it could get for any country in the world. And this little kingdom in the Himalaya really got it between the eyes.
The massacre of the royal family has given new life to a mass movement based on the teachings of Chairman Mao. A people's war is underway, and it threatens to topple the government of Nepal. It's the festival of Gai Jatra, and the people of Kathmandu gather to honour their dead. This is a centuries-old ritual, started by a king to cheer up his queen, grieving over the death of a son. So this year's festival has a special resonance. Nepalis have lost their beloved king, King Birendra, the monarch revered here as an incarnation of the god Vishnu, the protector. Losing the king is catastrophe enough. Losing an entire royal family at the hand of the crown prince, who then killed himself, has been cataclysmic.
We all grew up together, we went to school in the same place. And they were my family, and now there's hardly a handful of us left. I mean, it's the biggest tragedy I've ever suffered in my life.
You know, I hate to recollect even the things that I saw there. I mean, it was something terrible. I mean, let no one should go through such a thing in his life.
Since then, I saw that what is man's life? It is so short, you see.
These witnesses to the massacre all knew the Crown Prince Dipendra from birth. The heir to the throne held senior rank in the Royal Nepal Army. It was well known Dipendra had a fascination for guns, but no one knew how deadly that might become. On Friday night, June the 1st, as Kathmandu went about its business, a regular gathering of the royal inner circle was starting at the palace. But tonight was different. After greeting guests, the Crown Prince retired to his room, pretending to be drunk. Half an hour later, he emerged dressed in combat fatigues and armed to the teeth. Princess Ketiki Rajya Lakshmi Devi Shah is a prominent figure in the royal family, a cousin and lifelong friend of the late King Birendra. She was the first to see the Crown Prince.
Just before the incident, I was standing in what they call the billiard room, where it all took place. I mean, I was standing almost in front of the door with my sister, Princess Jayanti, who eventually died in the incident. And I just saw him walk in full uniform with boots and gloves, and I thought he looked a little bit comical, really. And I commented to my sister saying, oh, isn't he getting a bit old for fancy dress?
I heard somebody coming, footsteps. I just out of curiosity looked back over my shoulder.
Mahesh Singh was the next to see the Crown Prince. He was talking to King Birendra as the prince approached.
I hear bang, bang, 2 shots. They're so close to my right ear that I thought I completely blew my eardrum.
Ravi Rana was by the king's side and he looked the prince in the face.
Then I didn't say anything, but I said that, why? I said, by gesture, I said, why? And he saw my face. It was not angry at all.
The Crown Prince then produced a machine gun.
When I closed my eyes, I hear the automatic fire. The first spot, it went like that. Who was shot? I didn't see. Then suddenly, I had my gaze towards His Majesty. Then I suddenly find His Majesty was lurching on the right side, just leaning like this.
And the quiet after all that, I think he finished off the whole magazine, and I heard King Birendra say rather quietly in Nepali, what are you doing? And he was, from where I was standing, he was behind a pot plant, so I just went forward to see what was happening, and I noticed he had been shot, and I saw him start to fall. And that's when I realized that, he's been shooting the king. And I was totally dazed. I didn't know how to react.
The Crown Prince left the billiard room, but returned again, this time armed with a new automatic weapon.
Prostrate, covered my head, crossed my
As
arms,
Mahesh Singh
covered my
took
head
cover,
like this and didn't move.
the Crown Prince's cousin, Prince Paris, tried to intervene.
He says, brother, nai dai, which in Nepali he said, nai dai. No brother. 2-3 times he said.
By now, the Crown Prince was bent on utter destruction.
And, well, he shot at the king's party again, and he even went up. I think by then the king was dead, because he sort of kicked the body with his feet to make sure he wasn't moving. And then he just swung the gun around and he shot all of us. And as I was lying there, I saw one of my cousins, he deliberately took aim and just shot off the back of her head. And then he swung the gun around, and there were two of, I didn't recognize who it was at the time, but there were two cousins, ladies, on the ground, and he so casually just swung the gun around and shot at them again.
In the space of 2 minutes, the Crown Prince had killed 10 members of the royal household. 5 others were wounded and taken to hospital. Princess Ketiki saw her sister machine-gunned to death. The princess took fire to her shoulder.
I was lying on the marble floor and I could hear the blood flowing out of my shoulder. And that's when I looked down and saw my shoulder, and I saw, white stuff, which I suppose was bone. I didn't look any further. I just wrapped my sari around it and tried to hold it together as best I could and stop the bleeding.
It was a bloody scene. So many blood all over the places.
Well, I know it's so sad. A moment ago we were talking and suddenly they are not there.
As word of the tragedy spread beyond the palace, the nation struggled to comprehend. It emerged that the Crown Prince had fallen for a forbidden love, Devyani Rana, a commoner with Indian blood. The prince could marry her, but there was a cost. He could never be king. A palace insider confirms this.
He couldn't marry the girl of his choice. that happened. That is the only reason.
Major General Bharat Simha has served the palace for much of his life. He is the honorary aide-de-camp to the king and once served as the Crown Prince's guardian.
Well, I mean, you can blame anyone, everyone. You can blame everyone. You can blame the king and the queen saying that, you know, they didn't let him marry. You can blame the family saying that, you know, they didn't stop. But you know, this is hypothetical.
With the bodies of the royal family set alight, with them died any way of knowing exactly what motivated the Crown Prince to not just kill his father, but annihilate his entire family. It was the start of the country's plunge into a dangerous confusion. The palace put the killings down to an accidental firing of a machine gun, an explanation no one believed. Then there was a hasty inquiry. It produced the weapons used by the Crown Prince, but it failed to examine anyone on oath. Now, few are prepared to accept the simple truth that the Crown Prince pulled the trigger. Even those who were there are left wondering.
He is the man. I know very well. I know that he is the man. Still I don't believe. There, some doubt comes in my mind.
No human being could have done that. It is just the providence. It is the hand of God.
Is it possible he just went crazy?
Could be that. Could be that also, because as you know, in the report you see he was smoking something, black something or something, and people tell me that in your part of the world you have some sort of this drugs, which, you know, which if you take it, that you don't see people, you see tigers and you see leopards and you see lions. So when you shoot them, you're not shooting people, you're shooting animals which are going to devour you.
It might seem laughable, but the confusion over who did pull the trigger and why is genuine, and it's having a profound impact. In the villages and towns of Nepal, the confusion over the palace massacre is feeding a growing Maoist revolution. Long abandoned in China, Mao's philosophies can still draw a sizable crowd, here at Kirtipur on the outskirts of Kathmandu. Dilip Mahajan is one of the leaders of this people's uprising. He explains the palace massacre with the party's official conspiracy theory, a theory implicating Nepal's former Prime Minister, Girija Korala.
यहाँको गिर्जाले त साथै माग्यो तर त्यो गिर्जाको साथलाई त्यो गिर्जाको जुन योजनालाई राजा वीरेन्द्रले चाहिँ नमानेको यहाँकै जनतालाई मार्नु भन्दा बरु जनतासँग म छुक्छु जनतालाई सँगसँगै म लाग्छु भन्ने किसिमको त्यहाँ दुईटै बीच चाहिँ अन्तर्विरोध भयो.
Under this theory, the late king had refused to mobilise the nation's army to suppress the Maoists, and paid for that with his life.
त्यो नदेखेपछि उनले चाहिँ के गर्यो भनेदेखि विदेशीहरूको सहायता र आफ्नै भित्रको योजना बनाएर वीरेन्द्रलाई कतले आम बनाउनु सब परिवार चाहिँ हत्या गर्ने किसिमको योजना अनुसार उनले चाहिँ गर्यो.
The Maoist line may even be a deliberate distortion, but it's falling on fertile soil amongst Nepal's poor and dispossessed. Hundreds of thousands of small farmers perform backbreaking work for a pittance each day. For Dilip Mahajan, they are ideal recruits for a peasant revolution.
देशमा अब मुक्ति गर्ने हिसाबमा भनौँ न वर्ग सङ्घर्ष जब रहन्छ त्यो बेलासम्म सङ्घर्ष रहिरहन्छ भन्ने जुन किसिमको नीति अब माओवादीले लिएछ नि हैन
Dilip and his wife share this house with their 3 children. He's already spent 40 days in jail as a political prisoner. But this humble farmer's time apparently has come. The royal massacre has changed the political dynamic.
त्यसको जुन असर दरबारको जुन असरले त्यसले अब माओवादी मात्रै होइन कि सम्पूर्ण जनताहरुमा भनौं न एक किसिमको यहाँ अब राजतन्त्रप्रति जुन विश्वास छ नि त्यो विश्वास चाहिँ अब त्यो घटनाले दरबारको घटनाले ठ्याक्कै विश्वास अब घटेको त्यो विश्वास भनेको कहाँ हो भन्दाखेरि अब माओवादी पार्टीप्रति भनौं न
2 years ago, the Maoists had established a foothold in the west of Nepal, in the poorest districts of the country. At the time, it was a small underground operation.
स्थिर भएको ठाउँमा मूल्याङ्कन गरेर विशेष ठाउँमा आफ्नै आधार इलाका निर्माण गर्ने त्यहाँ भएका समस्याहरू आफै समाधान गर्ने र त्यहाँको जनतालाई मतलब बढी मात्रामा सक्षम गराउने र त्यो मतलब सिपलाई अर्को ठाउँमा देखाउने त्यस्तो किसिमको एउटा
As the Maoists gathered recruits, they also killed and maimed police in random attacks. Casualties then were few. But 2 years on, the movement has exploded. Just weeks ago, Maoist leaders invited cameras along for a show of their strength. They're well drilled, they've got guns, and they don't mind using them. In this undeclared civil war, the Maoists have killed over 400 police. In return, police have killed more than 1,000 Maoists.
This was a country where a political death used to bring the country to a halt. It would send shockwaves through the country.
Kanik Dixit is Nepal's leading political commentator. He's watched the fast tracking of the Maoist revolution under the leadership of a shadowy figure known only as Comrade Prachanda.
What Mr. Prachanda and his colleagues have decided to do is take a shortcut using the gun, and lo and behold, it has worked thus far in their favor.
And it seems the Maoist leader is elusive even to the man who's meant to be running the country, Prime Minister Dolba. Have you been negotiating or talking directly with Comrade Prachanda?
No. There is a reliable link person. Between Maoist and me. That only I can tell you right now.
The Prime Minister was thrust into the job 2 months ago, after his predecessor failed to deal effectively with the Maoists. Now the revolution is at the gate. As we interviewed the Prime Minister, barely 10 minutes away, in Kathmandu's central Durbar Square, the Maoists were rallying. Their number one demand is an end to Nepal's constitutional monarchy, now.
I can't force them to change their convictions, but constitutional monarchy will remain here forever.
If the Maoists, though, insist...
No. Constitutional monarchy, multi-party democracy. No compromise against constitutional monarchy. No compromise against multi-party democracy. They know this fact.
Multi-party democracy has only been in Nepal for 10 years. Yet in that time, there's been 10 different governments and 6 different prime ministers. As well, corruption has become rampant. So it's little wonder that so many people appear to be drawn to the Maoist alternative.
Yes, I must be honest to say that we couldn't address the problem of the countries after democracy. We could not address the problem of poverty. We could not address the problem of social injustice, caste systems, like untouchability. We couldn't address
problem of unemployment. We couldn't address the problem of backward ethnic communities. And Maoist came into picture and selling the dream.
The Prime Minister is desperate to buy time. The palace killings have unhinged the national psyche. Until the death of the old king, Dipendra, the monarchy was the one spiritual thread which bound Nepalis together. But for many, that thread has snapped. The only man who can put it back together again is the new king, Dipendra, here on a rare public outing to pay homage to his mother. But few are convinced there's much that's godly about Dipendra. Before his coronation, he'd used his royal position to build a thriving business empire.
The present king of Nepal, Dipendra, has a problem with some amount of credibility with his populace. He comes under a cloud onto the throne because there's a lot of suspicion that he himself might have been involved in it.
The new king, too, is the victim of yet another conspiracy theory, that he plotted with his son, Prince Paris, to kill the old king and seize power. Prince Paris is the playboy prince, whose high living ways have badly damaged the royal image. Leaving a party, he was drunk, driving too fast, and killed a young musician in the streets of Kathmandu. But the prince was never prosecuted.
So, in the period when there was no information coming out, in this complete period of mayhem that we underwent, it was very easy for people to jump to the conclusion that this must be a conspiracy, where Paris, who already known as a bad character, might have had a role to play.
Amidst the growing uncertainty, the government has called on the Maoists to halt the violence, to give the parties time to negotiate. The Maoists, for their part, are daring the government to bring it on, a challenge to civil war which is galvanising Nepal's political leaders.
What happens if negotiation fails? What happens if it cannot be solved through the political process? What then?
It will be terrible. Terrible. It means civil war that will be very unfortunate for the nation. In that case, the nation will lose. In that case, no people will gain.
Isn't the next logical step, if negotiation fails, a violent uprising?
Why should negotiation fail? I'm hopeful that negotiation will going to succeed.
This is the palace's offering to the people, a choral rendering of a special verse penned to commemorate the deaths of the royal family. Yet it seems oddly out of tune with life outside the palace walls today. And with the nation's protector, King Dipendra, gone, there now seems little to stop the old order being swept away.
I've known 4 kings now. It seems to me at the present moment the Nepalese haven't been able to handle a democratic Nepal. They feel exploited, probably by the politicians, probably by the monarchy, but I've never seen Nepal this low, or the Nepalese people this low in all my life.